this, not only that, but is this actually a constitutional issue at the top level that is actually that important we need to rule on it? Or is it so important that we shouldn't even touch it? Because that does happen too. They're like, nah, if we rule on this, the state, because then it takes it out of the state's hands. Then you lose 10th Amendment. It's done. That's Roe v. Wade.
All right, so let's move on to this is from Semaphore. There we go. So let's just kind of jump into, why Donald Trump was not charged with insurrection by the DOJ. Okay, so this is from Semaphore. Why Jack Smith didn't charge Trump with inciting an insurrection?
Was he incompetent? Oh, wait, no, that was the other guy.
Actually, I think he was completely competent, at least on this call. If there's one thing he did right, it was this one. So the news. Since former President Donald Trump was criminally indicted for the third time on Tuesday, legal experts had pored over the new revelations related to Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, the 4 charges he's facing, and possible defenses. Special counsel Jack Smith charged Trump with conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. But what he didn't charge Trump with, indictment of an insurrection, can illustrate how Smith plans to present the unprecedented case. Now, the DOJ didn't charge him with it because of the D word. You know what that D word is, Skrapp?
You're not the big D, but it's not Dallas?
Correct.
I don't know what I don't know.
Discovery.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Discovery is that one thing that goes both ways that they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go into discovery, both parties have to sit down at the table and go, well, here's all of my arguments. Where's yours? Here's all my evidence. Where's yours? And you get all of it. And then you have hearings to determine, okay, what evidence are you actually going to be allowed to use?
Mm-hmm.
Because how that works is this. This is why if you watch any of these big court cases when they pop up and law tubers are watching them, you'll come to find out that there'll always be moments within the back and forth where there's some piece of information that we all know out here in the media sphere, but the jury is not allowed to have because the two parties, the prosecution and the defense, have decided that, well, we're not going to go down that road because the other side has something that's a better play. So we're not going to do that. And so all those hearings to determine what evidence comes to trial is to even the playing field out. And the moment somebody cracks a lid on it in court, objection, sidebar, Your Honor, doors are open. We're coming at you with it. They did not want that. They didn't. And also in discovery, even if it's evidence that wouldn't be very good in back and forth in court, it could just be stuff that they don't want public.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that goes public out of discovery where the cases never actually end up going too far. It's like, oh, I got discovery. Now I can publish it.
Exactly. Because think of the things that they'd be able to expose. Their reasoning behind all the footage, the reports leading up to that day, all the documentation on agents in the crowd, that all is at play.
Yeah, Turtle saying here, Brady material also, prosecution has to provide all evidence that could exonerate the defendant. Defendant is entitled to a fair trial. State is not. State is not.
Exactly. So let's go to the insights here. So when the January 6th House Committee formally referred Trump for criminal charges last year, insurrection was one of those counts included. It would allege that Trump was directly involved in the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, which clearly he wasn't. But including that charge would have complicated the case and been harder to prove than broader conspiracy charges. Dennis Afrigut, a former federal prosecutor, writes in a Slate, quote, that narrowing increases the prospects for a pre-election trial. So this is what they were expecting, because the first thing is even harder to prove. I thought it was supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you don't think as the DOJ that you're not going to get a trial beyond a reasonable doubt, then why would Congress pursue this knowing that it was going to be just as hard? Yeah. So let's see. One of the other reasons insurrection charge could be complicated, prosecutors would have to rely on Trump's speech that day of the riot to prove that he was encouraging a riot. All right. That kind of argument could face potentially tricky First Amendment issues. Well, I mean, the First Amendment, that's easy to say, but when you're a public figure and you're running for president, or if you're going out of office, everything is going to be taken out of context via the media. So, but the thing is that Trump is known as like the ultimate troll. So he's going to say things that are going to get them hyped up, but he does it on purpose to show like
it's bait.
Yeah,
and they bite every time.
Every single time
they bite every time.
Right.
I would love to see like a back and forth between Trump and 3-Year Letterman. If you don't follow 3-Year Letterman on Twitter or on X, you have to. It's one of our favorites. This guy, I'm not going to give it away. Just go find out.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a discount on your waterbed.
Exactly.
Allegedly.
Waterbed. What is this, the 80s? All right. So the charge of conspiracy against rights, a civil rights law that prohibits trying to deprive someone of their right to vote, can serve as more straightforward stand-in for an insurrection charge, which is rarely brought in court. The conspiracy charge, on the other hand, has been successfully tested. Just security. There's an outsized attention on a possible insurrection charge, in part because the Constitution's 14th Amendment bars anyone who engages in insurrection from holding office. In theory, a conviction would disqualify Trump from serving a second term in the White House. Yeah, but it doesn't. The insurrection clause was the clause that prevented the Confederates that participated in the Civil War from running from office. We're not in the Civil War, so it's very specific reason why that clause was set up.
Somebody gets the jokes.
Uh-oh.
Go follow on Cap Turtle too.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
This guy. Yeah. They this is what was swirling in my head as you're reading that is, what has happened to the state reps and people that ran because in Colorado and in different states, they actually hit them with the 14th at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, and said, no, you're not allowed to run because you attached yourself to MAGA, or you were in DC during January 6th, or you said something or tweeted something in support of Trump at the moment, at that time. And I would be really interested to do a follow-up on that. We should have did that because that's the thing that happened at the state level until it reaches the Supreme Court, because a lot of stuff gets jammed up in district court. And by the time they jam, or even if they don't actually hit them with the 14th and disqualify them outright, they jam them up long enough that they don't actually get to run. And so, yeah, these this is telling when the guy that was ruled unconstitutionally appointed, illegitimate appointment as a special counsel, couldn't even get Trump on the insurrection. Look, let's just be honest. They haven't been able to get Trump on any of the pedo stuff that they tried to allege with all of the Epstein photos that were taken before he kicked that guy out of Mar-a-Lago. Okay, if any of that existed, we'd have known. Because we all know what was on that island.
Right.
Lots of. Let's go.
Right. Now I want to go into this a little bit clearer. So, right here, the no person shall be senator, representative, Congress, or elector of president and vice president. Okay, so this part is important because who is the elector? Are they talking about U.S. citizens? are they talking
Oh,
about?
an elector of president and vice president. So they were elected. See, a lot of times this language, we're not used to the terminology. It's just president and vice president.
Yeah, we're getting some. If you look in the chat there, we've getting some things from Turtle here. This is from New Mexico. What is this about?
Yeah, Supreme Court refuses an appeal by former New Mexico official convicted in January 6th.
Yeah, New Mexico banishes Trump ally from office for insurrection. So it says here, the New Mexico State District Court judge on Tuesday disqualified county commissioner and Cowboys for Trump co-founder Coy Griffin from holding public office, engaging in insurrection at U.S. Capitol January 6, 2021. The judgment from the district court judge Francis Matthew permanently bars Griffin from the federal and local public office. It arrived amid a spate of lawsuits aimed at sidelining political candidates and elected officials linked to the Capitol riots. Griffin was previously convicted in federal court of misdemeanor for entering Capitol grounds on January 6th without going inside the building. He was sentenced to 14 days and given credit for time served. The new ruling immediately removes Griffin for his position of commissioner of the Otero County in southern New Mexico. He also is barred from serving as a presidential elector. Wow.
Okay, so
so that makes sense.
Our live fact checker in the back here. Electors are people that cast votes in the Electoral College. We, the people, vote for our state's electors. If you didn't know, you can actually elect your electors. You can do that. You can do that.
Now, I wonder because it was a misdemeanor. They said that he never walked into the Capitol, but is it because he was just on the grounds or just in the crowd? I mean, that seems very vague to me.
I'm surprised that the Supreme Court just refused to hear it. Honestly, maybe they were piled up with other more pressing things, and they just said, "Nah."
I think so because it's not even just that it's more pressing, but I don't think they're not gonna take a case unless it covers all the bases. Because there's no point in covering one part of something when there's 18 holes that you can blow right through it. So typically what they'll do is they'll punt. This is what they said during the 2020 election when Trump was trying to get into the Supreme Court. Like, I mean, how many times did he send something up there? Like, there wasn't enough time to gather as much information as they needed. On top of that, I think some of the states were stonewalling his attorneys, knowing that he only had a limited amount of time. So they didn't necessarily say we're dismissing the case. It's just that they pushed it back.
Yeah, they weren't. They were
Or
just
they,
like, and by there comes a certain point in time. It's like there's this catch-22 with latches and standing, where you end up in. This was one of the stuff they did in the state level when they were contesting the state level votes and whatnot, and that stuff can spill over to Supreme Court too. Like you're saying, if there isn't enough information there for the Supreme Court, like they make the lower courts do most of the work.
Right.
They're the court that says, well, this case has gone from this court to that court to this court to that appeal and back down and up and down and all the way around, and it's finally made it to us, and we have a stack of paper. And we have the distilled version of this, and we have all of the things, all the possible arguments. And is this, not only that, but is this actually a constitutional issue at the top level that is actually that important we need to rule on it? Or is it so important that we shouldn't even touch it? Because that does happen too. They're like, nah, if we rule on this, the state, because then it takes it out of the state's hands. Then you lose 10th Amendment. It's done. That's Roe v. Wade. Whatever side of that fence you're on, that was 10th Amendment territory. Supreme Court took it from the states, and then they gave it back. So
there you go. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like Chevron deference. They did the same thing. they made the change back in the 80s, and then they sent it back because enough time went by to where they realized that was a really bad idea. you know
Oh, it's not totally Vash. This is the right one. Have you all thought about how the VP doesn't have to verify votes like what Pence should have did or something like that? You see, this is the thing, is they actually took that power away from the VP, didn't they? After Trump.
Is that what they did?
I think they nerfed that.
I'm not sure. I mean, back then there was a lot of other things going on that that I was
I'm
paying
pretty
attention.
sure they nerfed that. Yeah, I'm getting confirmed on the back end here. Yes.
Okay, so this actually might be when you're talking about Prison Mike,
We need to explain
and
the Prison Mike. If you haven't watched Office Space, that's that we're talking about. Jamie Ratskin. We're not making fun of the fact that he had cancer. He just had a poor choice of headwear that drew more attention to himself than probably necessary. The guy looks good with a bald head, dude. But it was just really funny. He decided he wanted to.
I mean, at least we know he's on the side of the Crips.
Got street cred.
He's got street cred. Let's go. All right. But anyways, I think we beat that with a dead horse. So let's move on to our
with a dead horse.
Yeah, with a dead horse.